Hello and welcome back to day 5 of our journey to 1500 ELO on chess.com. Yesterday we got to 1301 ELO, which leaves us 199 points left. Let's just jump into the game and see who our opponent is going to be for today. Our opponent is from Spain and he's called Thor. This is our second game as white, and we'll do just like we did in our first game and play our pawn to d4. I think we'll go for this kind of a position this time. Last time we went for a more London-esque setup, but this time we'll go like this and keep this bishop here instead. I know oftentimes it's supposed to go here along this diagonal. Our opponent seems to be playing a Slav defense. I think we'll just in this position I think we can play either this move or this move. I think this might be possible as well, or we might push a pawn also. I think we'll just prepare castling as for right now, I think. And if he takes, we take like this. I'm expecting our opponent to play this move probably, or something like this. Or he might prepare to advance his pawns and activate his bishop in some way down here perhaps. So he plays this knight move. Currently he can't do a lot with his knight because he can't jump in here, but in the long term he might have some other plans with his knight. I think we can either castle or move our own knight. I think we'll just move our knight first and then see what happens. Our opponent plays this a really aggressive move right here, which also leaves this outpost for us potentially in the long term. Currently he can't use this outpost, or we can't rather, because he's got two pieces targeting it, but we'll see what happens as we go ahead in this game and clash. If we get his dark squared bishop here, I'm noticing he's probably going to have difficulties contesting the dark squares in between his pawns here. This move might intend to play something like this in the long term, or rather something like this, and move down here with the bishop, maybe? How are we going to get this bishop into the game? I think first of all we'll go ahead and castle, and then we'll tackle our other issues eventually. So our opponent moves his knight up, and I think in this position we could look for some kind of a queenside expansion. Although this would lose our pawn straight away. I think a3 followed by something like this might be decent. Or potentially h3. e3 to prevent this kind of move. Although this is not really a threat as of now, though. So let's go a3 and see what our opponent's plan is. He castles here, and I think he's probably going to try to utilize this pawn push and group it together with his rook here. So this is looking kind of dangerous, but I hope we're gonna find some way of dealing with it. I'm kind of unfamiliar with this kind of position, but I think I'm looking at this move, so that in case of this move, we've got our rook in the file, but I really want to get our bishop into the game. But getting it onto this diagonal doesn't really do anything as of now, but long term I think it might do so. So we'll move up here. If he captures here, we capture back. He jumps in with his knight. This is a kind of tricky move because us capturing here would result in this move, which would kick our knight and create an attack on this side. This is a pretty tricky opponent. But if we do, however, not hit his knight yet, let's take a look at this maybe. What's his plan going to be after this? This will hit the knight in an additional way, and if we take here and he recaptures incorrectly at least, then we can take like this and get... I'm not quite sure as to how we should proceed afterwards, but I want to get our queen into the game. So we'll play here and defend our knight from his knight. So he's activating his rook and looking to checkmate us. I'm looking at this move and at this move. I think first of all I want to play this move here. And he captures like this. Okay. This leaves us with the option of doing this. It's going to hit the bishop, but after he moves it, I don't see many prospects for a knight here. How about taking his knight? That's kind of scary. Our opponent is playing pretty well this game, I think. So this might prove to be pretty difficult. I think we'll take here and try to remaneuver in a way where we can maybe punish his pawn structure. This is going to be an awkward pawn for him to defend, hopefully, in the long term. He captures like this, and then we can maybe do something like this. We can't move in here as of yet because he's going to capture here, and we would lose a pawn. I think we'll drop back in this direction. Our opponent is probably going to play it over here, yeah, and threaten this move over here. This is going to get incredibly difficult to defend very fast, I think, unless we play this accurately. This move looks pretty decent, because it's also going to avoid, or rather deal with, this potential queen infiltration. Let's go for this. Our opponent hasn't used any time yet, really, so he's going to have a lot of time to think about his attack. I'm looking at this move, but I'm also looking at the push like this as well. If en passant, then we capture with the rook, I think, or potentially with our knight. I looked at a move like this, but I noticed his bishop is protecting this, and it's difficult to infiltrate right over there just yet. I kind of want to connect our rooks, but currently we have to deal with this first, and I think this is probably going to be a critical move to kill his coordination with his bishop. En passant, and then we play either this or this. I'm liking the rook move as it brings us closer to doubling up our rooks on this file. I noticed this is under attack in this position, so we can't move the bishop, so it's got to be either the knight or the rook recapturing. I think we'll go with the rook. Oh, that's a misclick, which is really unfortunate. He's probably going to capture our bishop. He captured like this. The misclick might have been a game-losing mistake, but I hope we can salvage this. If we go over here, he's going to capture this, and we can't recapture because of the pin. And if we go over here, then he's going to capture this pawn, and it's going to be really difficult to play this. So let's take a look at this first, after which I think this might be a forced checkmate by our opponent right now. It's looking kind of dire. We can't really get our pieces into the game right now. Do any of our moves create any way of us surviving, any hopes of doing so? This is looking difficult to deal with. And we might have this move in response. So I think this is probably going to be the better move here. But he can just capture like this, I think. which he does. And now we are in an awkward position. He's up 2 pieces right now. I wanted to play this move and hit his queen in 2 different ways, but he can promote by capturing here. So that's not an option. How about this move? Trying to play a bit fancy here, because it opens up our recapture of this square. If we play here, he could force our queen off the board. Or he could simply check us here and probably get a checkmate. I'm really not liking our position right now. Do we have any more resilient ways of defending this? The misclick was really unfortunate, but that kind of stuff happens at times, so we'll just have to try to get the best outcome out of this. Either way, we're probably going to learn something from the game review afterwards, because our position was not super good leading up to that point. I think we'll try to play this and see what happens. I don't see any move getting close to a win for us, but this seems a bit tricky, as he probably has to find the correct moves at least. So he plays there, and this seems to be a first move for us, namely going here. I guess he's probably going, well, he's not going to do that. And I see his rook is currently weak as well, so we might get some counterplay chances right here. He might have some tactical combination as well here, but he goes like this. Okay. We are down 3 pieces, or 2 pieces and two pawns rather. I'm looking at this. And then we could play this maybe. This is going to be difficult to salvage, but we have to kill off some of his attack at least. He's going to recapture. And then we move here. If we can get all 3 pieces into the game, we might be able to checkmate him perhaps. But as I said, this is going to be a difficult game. We capture here, so we don't trade queens. We are going to need all resources at our disposal to play this out. Currently we're targeting this pawn, but he could bring more pieces into the game and also defend it simultaneously. I'm looking at moves like this. He's probably going to drop this pawn. But to be honest, we have to play some suboptimal moves here to get a chance of winning. This kicks the queen, but he's going to play here. Or he might try to force a queen trade by playing something like this in response. We've got moves like this. This is seeming pretty decent. We just have to generate threats, I think. Although this move might be met by this. No, never mind, that's going to be taken by the rook. So we still cover the diagonal here. And shielding ourselves from checks. So we'll go like this, and he might move the knight to try to hit us. We just have to create as much counterplay as possible here, and we might have a chance of checkmating him. Our chances are, as I mentioned, pretty slim, but I'm optimistic we might be able to create something in this position. This move is scary, however, and I don't know whether we have the tools necessary of dealing with it. He plays that move, okay. How do we respond here then? I really want to threaten his pieces here, but it's seeming kind of difficult. This move. We could hope it's a perpetual check, but it's not going to be so, so that's probably not going to work. I think we might have to take this bishop. He's going to check us, and we might be able to walk our king to some semi-safety. We cannot play here because this is going to lose our queen. Playing here is going to be met with what kind of move? He can't check here. So he can't pick up our rook at least, or maybe he can. Like this, and taking our rook. How about we go to the corner? Then his bishop is coming in. I'm not super optimistic when I look at our options here, to be honest. But if we move like this, he captures our rook, then we can try to do something at least. So let's do this. He's going to go here, and then we go up. So he doesn't check us afterwards here. This is a really bizarre position. And he's going to pick up our rook, yeah. And then we just check him, I guess. So he hides in the corner. What options do we have here? We can't get our king to safety. We'll just try to be tricky, to be honest. Play like this. And if he doesn't see the discovered check, then he's probably going to lose something. We'll have to make some kind of tricky move here, or we are going to lose pretty quickly. He checks us, and we are going to try to get to safety here. I don't know which move is going to be better to go to, but I think staying back might seem like a good idea. Still looking at this move to check his king. He goes in and checks us, and he's probably going to try to force the queens off the board. That's going to be horrible for us. So to be honest, I think we'll just go back. Oh, it's still a queen trade. Okay, this is going to be interesting. On paper, this is a completely lost position. However, we might be able to turn this into something positive for us. I'm awaiting this move to defend the pawn. He tries to force a rook trade. That's the last thing we want, so we'll go ahead and move here and maybe look for the eventual fork of these pieces. Let's hit his knight over here. He's probably going to move it here, I think. Or he moves it over there, okay. What can we do here? We could try to hit his knight, and if he moves it, hit his bishop, protecting his pass pawn. Because picking up this pawn is probably not going to result in much right now. This move prevents us from hitting the bishop here, though. If our opponent plays this inaccurately, he's probably going to make a lot of mistakes, but if he does so, we might have a chance of capturing some pawns over there and promoting a queen. He doesn't seem to make any mistakes so far, though. This knight move doesn't threaten anything, but it kills our counterplay against this bishop, so we'll just take the pawn instead. And I'm expecting his rook to get involved in the attack. Because currently this rook move is going to force our king to the back rank, and then he can push this pawn. We'll just move down, and he's going to push it probably. He doesn't push it yet. He's preparing a two-move push like this. Okay. Then he pushes. We move. Oh, we can't move there, so we move here. He gets a queen, and we take the knight. Or maybe this is a stalemate. No, it's not. We should have thought of stalemate options in regards to him promoting here. It might have become tricky for him, but I'm not seeing anything yet. This is a mate in one, and he finds it. Okay, so this is our first loss in this series, which brings us back down to 1262 ELO, and we had a grand total of 8 blunders in this game, so this is going to be interesting to take a look at. Thank you for the game, Thor. This is probably going to become a good piece of analysis for us. Let's just jump straight into the game review and look at our moves. I'll just make sure the evaluation and everything is turned on, and then we'll see why we lost this game. We played similarly to how we did last time. He moved his bishop out, we pushed up. And when did our first mistake occur? We seem to have played pretty decently up to this point, but here we shouldn't have captured. Instead, we should have moved our bishop, like I mentioned. Okay, but he captures incorrectly, and we're back to equality. This was apparently pretty bad for us. And we should have sacked a pawn here, it seems. In this position, we're back to equality again. And here we actually had an advantage, but yeah, the misclick kind of killed our position. We should have just taken. I'm curious as to how decent this move might have been. Yeah, it was one of the best moves. It would have given us a pretty decent advantage, it seems. But from this point on, everything went downwards. We tried to salvage the situation. But he converted pretty well, got our pieces out of the game, and then proceeded to checkmate us like this. Well, that's it for today then. Thank you for watching, and I hope we'll bounce back from our loss tomorrow. See you next time.